Hey, Steph.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Ready
Welcome
to
to
ready to chat.
I know. Welcome to another episode of Bariatric Banter Podcast.
I love it.
I can't think of what number this is, but you'll all know. It's number insert here. We are coming at you with a very special two-part episode this week. So this is going to be part one of what we think is actually a really cool two-part series that we're doing. So there's been a lot of discussion, especially in the bariatric community recently, about GLP-1s, Wegovy,
Yes.
Moderno, Ozempic. I'm just going to refer to all of them as GLP-1 because I'm not
Yep.
going to remember how to pronounce those
There's
names
too many.
properly.
Too many.
Too many. And so we wanted to talk about our thoughts and feelings on them and maybe kind of put some of our misconceptions and concerns out into the open, because next episode we're going to have a guest on who actually is on GLP-1s, and we're going to be able to ask her all of our questions, our myths, our misconceptions. We're going to actually be able to speak to what led her to do this, what does she like, what doesn't she like, does she recommend it. So we're very excited to bring you part one, where Steph and I are going to talk through what we know about it. And, some of them are probably misconceptions. We probably don't know everything about GLP-1s because we're not on them, but we get asked a lot about, oh, it's very similar to bariatric surgery, right? And you must know a
Mhm.
lot about that, and you're going to go on it, right? Because a ton of bariatric influencers have started taking it. And we will put an asterisk right at the start of this episode. Do it. We have
Yeah,
absolutely no problem with people
100%.
doing it.
No.
We don't think it's yeah, we don't think there's anything to be shamed about by taking it. We support it. But we
Yeah.
want to talk through the questions that we both have about it, some of the
Yeah,
concerns we
exactly.
have about it, but we
Mhm.
think it's great if you want to be on it. And then next week, we'll have an expert who's on it come hopefully help answer some of those questions and concerns we have.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to, right? Is just questions, concerns, things we've heard, things we've seen. Like you said, there's no judgment
None.
um, to anyone who's on it. I'll be very honest. It's not something that I think I will ever do. I have my own reasons why. I have my own history. But again, that doesn't mean I judge anybody who does it. If it works for you and it's what you want to do, you go right ahead. Do I have my concerns on it? Yep. Do I have my own personal feelings on it? Yep. Um, but if it works for you and it fits into your lifestyle, that's great. I just think, kind of as you alluded to, I just think there's some misconceptions. I think there's some maybe lack of preparation on some people's parts who maybe are jumping into it. I don't want to say with the wrong reasons, but maybe too quickly or without thinking the entire process through. Similar, no different than some people who do bariatric surgery, right? We've talked about it where they think it's the magic pill or the easy way out. I think the same can kind of be said for the GLP-1s as well. And I think
Yes.
that's kind of where we're headed.
Yeah, and I think, I'm open to taking them. I don't think I could actually inject myself every day, but I think you'd get over it pretty quick. But, um, I've had a lot of people, both personal and professional, ask my thoughts and
Mhm.
opinions on taking GLP-1.
Yes.
You've heard me say a few times, I've seen a rise of bariatric influencers on GLP-1, which we
Oh
don't
my
care.
gosh, yeah.
My large concern is I do believe you owe the public a disclosure that you're on it, especially if you're an influencer who promotes yourself
Yeah.
as a bariatric influencer. It's not okay to hide that you're on a GLP-1, because now you're making people believe that this is what eating looks like after bariatric
Mhm.
surgery, and it's not. So if
Or
you
that
are
your
going to be
success
on
is
it
coming solely from
from
bariatrics,
surgery, yeah,
which
and you're setting unrealistic examples. So that's where I have a bit of an issue. If you're going to be on it and you're an influencer, not just an average everyday person, then
yep.
I do think you owe the public disclosure that you're on it, because you're kind of falsely misrepresenting bariatric surgery. So
Yeah.
that's one little issue I have with GLP-1s. And then the other kind of issue I have,
Mhm.
and please call me out on this, listeners, because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I hate when people say bariatric surgery is the easy way out, and you all know why. The immense amount of work that we need to put into this. This is not easy. And I
No.
hate what I'm about to say, But I don't like people comparing GLP-1s to bariatric surgery in any way.
They're
It is
vastly different.
not the same journey, and I'm not trying to diminish that there
Yeah.
is an effort that goes into taking GLP-1s, and I'm not trying to do what everyone does to bariatric surgery and call it the easy way out. However, it is not bariatric surgery. We are not the same
No.
person.
No.
We have similarities, but in no way is this the same journey or experience, or I hate to say it, level of work that bariatric surgery is. So don't compare the 2, and okay, here's how I'll describe. Having a
What?
kid and having a dog are not the same thing, so
There you go.
please don't pretend that raising
Yeah.
a puppy is
Process
just as hard as raising a child. It's kind of insulting to parents. So
the
please don't tell me
process
that
is
Ozempic is
the
part.
process is vastly different. Um, there yeah, they're from day one, vastly different process, vastly different, requirements, vastly different processes to get, into bariatric surgery, to have the surgery versus
Mm.
getting a GLP-1. Now, again, that doesn't mean that there's not people who are taking GLP-1s that are working out, that are tracking their food, that are busting their butt. But what we're seeing is a rise of people who are I don't wanna say not taking it seriously, but who are just, "Well, I'll just take a GLP-1 and that'll solve my problem." And that's what we're seeing a rise in, and that's what I think is concerning, is that there's no we've talked about it for bariatric surgery. For us, we have the pre-op, um, program, and we have to work with a dietitian, and we have to work with a social worker, and we have to work with a nurse practitioner, and we have to go through all the mental side of everything and learning about proper eating and tracking your food and how to, like, there's so much that goes into that process. And for getting your GLP-1, you have blood work, you have doctors, and there are certain requirements you have to hit for most people. I know in different countries and stuff it's different, but there are typically requirements you have to hit. But there's nobody guiding you through the rest of the process. There's no dietitian helping you along the way. There's nobody
Nope.
helping you with the mental shift. Um, and we're
Oh,
just seeing a
boy.
rise of people who are taking the GLP-1 and then just not eating, not
Not eating.
tracking food, not eating.
Not eating.
And then, of course, you're losing weight. Of course, you're going to lose weight, but it's not
Anybody would.
sustainable,
No.
and it's not healthy. So, like Hannah said, we're not. There's no judgment around GLP-1s, people taking it.
No, take
The
it.
thing that kind of scares us, having gone through this year-long pre-op program, is the lack of education or the lack of resources that a lot of these people on GLP-1s are going into it like blind and just thinking,
Oh.
"Well, I'll just take the GLP-1 and I'll lose weight." But there's so much more to it that's
So
missing.
much more to it, and, you're kinda nailing where I get a little heated, so, again, I'm not trying to say easy way out because nothing ever is. There is work for anything you do. This is why I don't like it being compared to bariatric surgery because this is not in any way the same journey or the same beast. Um, I have very large concerns that people are able to just get on this medication with, like, virtual consults. So now I know technically there are people who've gone through their doctor, and I love it because, like, if you have a great family doctor that's gonna support you on this journey, that's awesome. But there are people who circumnavigate that and just do online assessments. Like, back in the day before weed was legal and everybody got to do an online consultation to get a license to buy marijuana, and it was, like, kind of a doctor, but not really a doctor. You can do this in Canada. There's a few websites where you can just do a virtual consultation where they'll just ask you very basic questions about your health and then be like, "You're approved. Here's your injection. Start at this." Very large concerns about that because these are people taking it for weight loss specifically who have no dietitian, no therapist, probably aren't using their primary care doctor, or even if they are, aren't checking in with them like weekly, who've had no training, no schooling, no nothing on eating, overcoming emotional eating, dealing with the demons that led you to be overweight, and are now injecting themselves with a weight loss drug with no support system except for Reddit and Instagram and TikTok, who are seeing all these people now not eating. Because I've actually had a friend reach out who was like, I'm thinking of going on it. And I'm really supportive of that. I think it's a great
Yeah,
idea. if you do it properly with your healthcare provider. And then like 2 days later was like, "Oh my goodness, I know someone who's on it and they basically don't eat anything." And I was like, "Yeah, I hate to be that guy, but don't look up on social media because everyone on social media, not everyone, but vast majority, they're not eating." There are famous bariatric influencers, 2 of them who are incredibly famous. One who I think most of you probably follow, who is on a GLP-1 because she has regained some weight recently, I think like 30 pounds in a short period of time. I have very, very, very big concerns about the fact that she posts barely eating anything. She like, people have called
Yeah,
her out
for
too
what
and
I'd eat
said,
in a day is, like, nothing.
it's disturbing. She's posted and people have called out, "This is all liquid, you barely ate anything." And we're talking like, woke up, had a protein coffee, not even a big one, and then had a few bites of some leftovers, and then went 6.5 hours with no
It's
food
nothing,
to eat a Built Bar, and then eat a little bit of cottage cheese with some meat. And that's it, called it a
and that's
day.
the day.
But is, like,
Yeah.
super happy because 'cause they've lost over 30 pounds, and here we go. This is my big concern because in surgery, we learned you have to eat small meals a day, and you have to learn how to eat. You have to have a good, healthy
Yeah,
relationship with food. You need food, and it's not sustainable. If that is your relationship with food on Ozempic, you'll never be able to
yeah.
come off of it, and it's not healthy. You really shouldn't just be not eating. Bodies cannot survive on 1 meal a day, and I am
No,
very,
no.
very, very troubled by how many GLP-1 people on social aren't
Mhm.
eating and thinking that's totally normal.
I was talking to somebody who was on it, and they were like, "Yeah, like, I ate twice today." And I was like, "That's not enough." And it's this counterintuitive misconception of, well, if I wanna lose weight, I just don't eat. Well, no, that's not that's actually extremely bad for you. Not eating is the opposite of what you wanna do. You want to eat and fuel your body. And
Mhm.
so trying to talk to this individual and say, "Hey, like, you still need to be eating 5 to 6 times a day, but similar to us, like, smaller portions, more consistent, keeping that satiation consistent throughout the day instead of trying to
Satiated.
trying to cram this big meal in, and then you're so hungry that, like you said, then you go 6 hours with no food. And
Yeah.
that becomes the problem because if you put your body into that habit of not eating, yeah, you're gonna lose weight, you're gonna think that you're being successful, but what happens when you go off of the medication?
Mhm. You can't come off of
And
it.
the hunger right. You either have to stay on it forever or you're gonna come off the medication, the hunger cues are gonna come back, and you haven't built those habits during the however long you've been on the medication. You haven't built those habits in. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna go back to your old habits. You're gonna be starving, you're gonna be hungry. The hunger cues are gonna come back, the food noise is gonna come back, and you're just going to eat and eat. So, like, being on a GLP-1 is fine, but you still have to eat properly, eat enough, follow good I don't wanna say diet because I don't like the word diet, but follow a good diet, good food guidelines.
Yeah,
You can't just say, "I'm gonna take a GLP-1 because then I'm not gonna eat and I'm gonna lose 100
and that's
pounds."
great
Yeah, you are,
because
but that's not healthy.
do you know what's going to come from that? So, we're not trying to scare people, but here's the thing, when you jump on a GLP-1 and you don't have all the info and you don't have someone to check in with every week and you don't have a therapist and a dietitian, you maybe aren't being told the full picture. Pancreatitis, while not an epidemic, is very high among people who take GLP-1s. There's a really incredible Reddit channel of healthcare providers. I think it's called like Nurses in Action or something like that, where it's doctors and nurses and they get to just share and talk about things. And somebody put up a post about, let's talk about GLP-1s. And overwhelmingly, the nurses were like, God, I wish people would tell them that pancreatitis is a huge problem, or
Mhm.
twisted bowels, like that becomes a really big, like compacted bowels becomes a big one because you're barely eating, everything is becoming compacted and hard in there, and like you don't really want a doctor to have to go up in your poop chute and pull it out, because I don't. But the pancreatitis, it's becoming a big, big, big problem with a lot of people jumping on GLP-1 and then not following proper protocol on it. And if you don't know, when your pancreas becomes infected and inflamed, they don't take it out, but I think they have to remove a portion of it or do something. That then leads to you being a diabetic.
Yep.
There is no way around that. If it's severe enough that you have to go to the hospital, you come out as a diabetic because now you can't produce insulin the way you need to. So there are very real ramifications from not eating and from just thinking that all you have to do is drink liquid. Vitamin deficiency kills
Mhm.
bariatric patients. And I hate to bring this person up again because they've been brought up in a lot of podcasts, but Big Chris, look her up, was a very popular bariatric influencer who notoriously did not take her vitamins and did not eat the diet she was supposed to and wasn't really eating, and documented her journey in the hospital and took full
Full
accountability for what
accountability. Yep.
happened. Her organs started to shut down and she passed away. When you
Yep.
like
There's
vitamin
guidelines for a reason.
deficiency, yeah, vitamin deficiency doesn't just happen overnight. It takes months to
Takes time.
happen, but it
Mhm.
can take years to come back from that. We're not talking like my vitamin D is low because that happens to a lot of us. We're talking you're deficient. And before surgery, I was deficient in vitamin D. It kind of explains a lot of like why I had such high anxiety and I was having a really hard Christmas and I was depressed. Like I just did not feel like myself. My vitamin D was just in the garbage. I had to go on 4.5 months
Then you
of
went the opposite way.
yeah, I had to go on 4.5 months of 10,000 IU a day, well
Mhm.
over the, like,
Which is
like,
crazy.
under medical supervision. I was taking over 70,000 IU a week, and it took 4.5 months to get to low normal. Like, didn't push me through the roof, got me to a level where I was allowed to have surgery. I'm now since then, I'm great, and I do supplement vitamin D, and I'm back at a normal vitamin D level, but vitamin deficiency takes a really long time to hit
Mhm.
and then an even longer time to correct, and you can't
Cause
fuck with
permanent
vitamin deficiency.
no, it can cause permanent damage, long-term side effects. That's
Organ
why we always
damage.
say yeah, that's why we always say, guys, there's guidelines, like in our program especially, but there's guidelines for a reason. It's not there to be a pain. It's not there to make your life annoying. It's not there because we all want to take 8, 9 supplements a day. It's there for a reason. And so
Ding, ding,
I
ding.
think I wish there was more guidance for people who are on GLP-1s because we know there's people who are on it for the right reasons. We know there's people who are doing it the right way, who are watching their food, who are making healthier choices, who are
Mm,
exercising. They're using it like we're using surgery as a tool.
a
But we
tool.
also know a tool. We also
It's
know there's people who are seeing the rise in GLP-1s and thinking, well, shit, if all I have to do is inject myself once a week and I can
and
lose
then not
weight
eat.
and not
Yeah,
eat, perfect.
easy.
And that,
Mhm.
yeah, that's the concern, right? So how do we try
I
to
think
mitigate that? How do we
they're
how do
looking
we
for they're looking for the easier way out,
Yep.
and I think you're right. The amount of people that and I don't use that word lightly because I know that that's such a hypocritical thing to say, but the ones that are looking for the easy way out are the ones doing it for looks. And I remember when I entered this bariatric program, the social worker asked like, "Why are you doing this?" And even my therapist asked,
Mhm.
"Why are you doing this?"
Every call. Every call.
And
What's
they
your
were like, "We
why?
don't wanna hear it's because you wanna be skinny or that this is all about looks." And even my therapist was like, "I don't wanna hear you say, 'Well, I wanna be healthier.'" She's like, "That like, everybody says the same
Mm-mm.
generic shit." She's like, "What do you want to achieve after this?" And that's how we built my bucket list of, I wanna ride a horse, I want to travel without blah, 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 like and when we started piecing it together, she said, "Do you see how none of this has to do with your looks? Not once did you say,
Mhm.
well, I wanna look, like this or look like that. Like you wanna get married, you wanna find a husband, you want like, big, big goals. But in the program, they ask the same thing and they don't wanna hear someone be like, well, I need to look hot. Like I need to look skinny. I
Right.
need to
I
be
wanna
skinny.
be size 10. I wanna yeah. That's
And I've
not
had
that
people
those answers
and
aren't allowed.
no, and I've had people, and so has Steph, reach out to us being like, I wanna look like you, so I'm gonna
Oh
start
god.
taking Ozempic. And I'm like, okay, so just my looks should not be the reason to do this. Like,
I literally had a conversation this week with somebody who was like, "Oh my gosh, you're wearing smaller clothes than I am now. I wanna look just like you. I have an appointment at the doctor to talk about GLP-1s." And I was like, "First of all, I'm not taking a GLP-1. Second of all,
I had
this
bariatric
has
surgery.
taken a lot of time
Yeah.
to get to this point. Third of all, just because I'm wearing a size small, and I know for a fact, there's somebody I talked to the other day that made a comment like this. I know for a fact that numbers wise, I weigh more than them. I know for a fact I weigh more than
Yes.
them, but I'm taller than they are. They are
Mhm,
shorter than me. So,
mhm.
yes, the sizes are one thing, but our weights are different. It's like you cannot compare what
No.
you're seeing
Nope.
because
Like,
you
you and
don't
I
know.
are
Yeah,
different like, different heights, so you probably will be a different size than me, but standing side by
right.
side, we're going to look the same size. But, like, you will get you're taller than me. There's like, you'll probably be
My
a
weight
6,
my
and
weight
I'll
won't
be an
be
8, and that's
yeah,
fine. I'm
my weight
short.
yeah, like, your weight's gonna be different, your size are gonna be everything's gonna be different, and I remember listening to a podcast a while ago, and it was from the Your Way weight loss ladies that who got me hooked on this the red pepper dip. And I remember them saying about how she used to look at people and say, "I wish I was them. I wish I
Yep.
had their life. I wish I looked like them." But what you always have to remember is you don't know what went into that, and you don't know why they look that way. Do they look that way because they had an eating disorder that they're trying to overcome? Did they look that way because they'd been putting 4 years of hard ass work into like,
Mhm.
you don't know. So you don't wanna say, "I wish I looked like you," or "I wish I was your size," because you don't know the implications of that, and you don't know
No.
what it took to get there. You
But
have to
also,
set your
like,
goals.
I do get it. Because I always
Yep.
wanted to be skinny, and I would say I wanted to be
Oh my gosh, all the
skinny, and
time.
I wanted to look good, but I think the thing you should want is to I wanna look, as good
I wanna
as
I
like, as
wanna
in you smile
feel.
more, and you look healthy, and you like,
Your goal should be, I want
you
to feel like that. I
I
want
wanna
to
feel like
have
you. Yeah.
yes, I wanna have that confidence, I wanna have that smile, I wanna have that joy. That's what you should be looking for, not,
And
"I
here's
want to weigh what she weighs."
my problem too with this is I think in Canada, there needs to be a program that you go
Mhm.
into. And I think the program, because it's similar to bariatric surgery, we did say there's no qualifications to get in. However, your doctor likely will say something like, I've seen you try. I've seen that you've been putting the effort in. And that's what mine said. It's been a year. You've been with a dietitian and you have a personal trainer and you've been in and out of here. And I've seen that you have tried. And he said, you have a lot stacked against you. And I think surgery is your best option. That's what I'd like to see from people that wanna take it as well, and I mean this nicely, but, like, even just for 2 weeks, can you make a meal plan, stick with it, and start exercising? Because a lot of the people, and it's not all of them, I have wonderful humans that I'm encouraging to take this because I've seen the
Mhm.
hard work
It will
they've
be a
put in,
great
and
tool.
I
It
know
will be a
that this
great tool.
paired with their hard work will be exceptional for them. But then I also see the people who don't walk, don't exercise, eat like shit,
Right.
who kind of think like, "Well, I'm just gonna go grab this and it's gonna fix everything I've done." And I know people feel the same about me being like, "Fuck you, Hannah. You were super obese and you did dumb shit and ate like crap and you took the easy way out."
Yeah.
Sure, it's easy to look at me and say that, but I went through a year program where I had to stop drinking, stop eating certain things. If you were smoking weed or cigarettes, you had to give those up. I had to
Yeah.
go through intense blood testing every 3 months. I had to speak with social
Right.
workers. I had to prove that I could stick to a diet. And then I also had to have my doctor say, like, she has tried, she can do this.
Yeah.
Um,
But actually,
I
you don't know
really
what
think
you don't know what somebody's put into, what they put into or what got them there. And I know, like, we try and show things on social media, but I'll be honest, like, yeah, we show some hard stuff, but we probably don't show
we don't.
like a lot of people out there, we don't show
And we
our
should.
entire life. We don't show everything, right? We try to be real and genuine and honest. But guys, there's a lot of shit that you, that you don't see that
You
goes
don't.
on. There's a
And
lot of hard ass days and
oh
hard
God.
ass times. And like Hannah said, the amount of stuff we have gone through to get here.
God,
And yeah, we've made stupid choices.
it
Yeah,
is
we've
hard.
eaten like shit. Yeah, we let ourselves go. Yeah, we didn't look after ourselves. Yeah,
Yep.
we've made mistakes, and I
But it's
guarantee there's
hard.
people judging both of
Yep.
us, left, right, and
Yep.
center, and that's
All the time.
fine.
Yep.
But we know we're putting in the work.
Yep.
We know we're doing what needs to be done. And like there's days I messaged Hannah the other day and I was like, man, I was a bad bariatric patient today. Like
I
I
have
did
those days.
not eat enough. Yeah, like I did not eat enough. I did not
Mm-mm.
pack for being on the road. I was not
Mm-mm.
prepared. I didn't hit my hydration. Like it happens. But I think the key is what Hannah said is when used as a tool, same as surgery. And again, they're not the same thing, but they have that same underlying notion.
Mentality.
When used as a tool in conjunction with eating better, eating
Mhm.
healthier, moving your body, it can be phenomenal. And I have same thing. I have seen so many people benefit from it. I have family members who are on
So
it, and that's
beneficial.
phenomenal.
Yep.
But it's a it's a tool. It's a tool.
It's a
It is
tool.
not a magic fix, and that's where I worry about people is the people who you see who are using it as a magic fix. They're losing all this weight. They think they're doing so great, and then they're gonna stop taking it, and what's gonna happen? And I don't wanna see them fail. I don't wanna see them just go back to the way they were. So maybe they'll stay on it forever. That's one of my questions, right? And that's one of my things as to why I'm so hesitant for GLP-1s is so for anyone who doesn't know, my husband and I did a couple years of fertility treatments back years ago. Um, and part of that was injections. And I have and had and have long-term side effects from those injections that were never told to me, never explained to me, were not made
Oh,
clear, that only came out years later. And so I that's where my personal concerns with GLP-1s are is I don't feel there's enough research around the
I
long-term
agree.
effects or around what happens when you stop it.
I
So for
agree.
me, that's my thing, and that's my thing. That doesn't mean I don't think anyone else should take it. Like I said, you do you. What works for you, phenomenal.
Perfect.
But that's where my concerns are, and that's where I always worry when I see certain people who are kind of taking it and throwing caution to the wind.
I've seen
Is
more
again
doing
that
that.
yeah, if you don't have those habits built in place, when you stop taking the medication, what happens? Those are my
And we
questions,
we
right?
know
And that's
what's
why I'm
happening. We
excited to
know.
yeah, and that's why, like, I'm excited next week to talk to someone we have coming on who's on a GLP-1.
Yeah.
Because
How
I've
long
never to be
lasts.
totally yeah, to be totally honest, I've never had that discussion with my doctor because GLP-1s was just never something that was on my radar.
Yep.
So, I'm curious around, like, what were her discussions like with her doctor? What was her what information was given to her? I'm curious for that side of things.
Yeah, and I know that people, do go into maintenance mode and are able to maintain, and I know that it's the same as bariatric surgery. We will all have a bit of regain. They've told us you'll go low and then you'll come up a little bit. That is normal, but I know that the statistics out there say that like, well, you're only going to gain like 30% back or blah blah blah. I don't understand how that's possible because the GLP-1 doesn't burn fat. It doesn't go into your system and completely suck the fat out of you. It suppresses your appetite
Yes.
and that is what causes you to lose weight. So I genuinely don't understand how you're going to come off the GLP-1 and not put the weight back on because you cannot survive on one meal a day. And
No.
that's where I'm having a lot of issues is and people are saying it, I think it is the right label. This seems like a lot of eating disorders. And it is because you were obese, you were on this because you want to be thin, you're way too scared to eat enough food while doing this and like that's dangerous. Like you need to be on a GLP-1 and setting alarms or setting reminders that like I know you're trying to lose weight, but you still have to eat. Like you can't just not eat and be like, "There we
So
go."
so counterintuitive, and I said that to somebody today. I was like, "I know I know the thought process is eat less, lose weight." And I know it's counterintuitive, but you have to make sure you're eating. And I said to them, like, you got to be eating 6 times a day, small throughout the day, keep it
Yeah.
consistent. And I said the same thing. I said, hydration is still my big struggle every day. I set a timer on my watch and on my phone. It just went off every 15 minutes. It says water reminder. So you do what you got to do. But I had that exact conversation today is I know you think you're doing good by not eating because we're always told eat less, eat less, eat less, but you need to make sure you're eating enough to fuel your body, to hit your nutrients and to be healthy. There's a difference between eating enough to fuel yourself and be in a healthy spot than eating 3,000 calories a day, right? We're
Yeah.
not saying you should be eating like you used to eat, but we're saying you still need to eat.
Yeah. And
That's
the
the
the thing is
difference.
like there hasn't been enough studies on your muscle loss as well, like, that's a huge thing for bariatric patients, which is why we must
Yeah.
do strength training and why we eat such super high protein meals. There have not been enough studies on GLP-1 and your muscle wasting, and if anything, that should be the most terrifying part. You don't want your muscle density to drop, and
No.
you wanna lose muscles and fat, and unfortunately, a lot of people on Ozempic have been reporting that they have drastic muscle loss, even with working out. That's where you start to become super weak and unable to do anything, and so
Yeah.
I'm scared about that, and then there are a lot of people who've said, now they're exercising like, that's the best part about it. If you lose weight, you feel better, you wanna exercise more. So is it
Yeah.
possible to come off
Right.
of it because now your life has changed? Probably, but there's more stories, unfortunately, of people saying, "I was eating well and exercising a lot, so we decided to come off the Ozempic, and I didn't change my diet or exercise, and I somehow gained all the weight back." And it's like, that's
Right.
depressing. That's really hard to be on Ozempic, have changed your eating habits, and started exercising more, come off this drug and gain your weight back.
Yeah.
And like that's what I want to ask this person is from
Right.
my understanding, this doesn't melt fat in your body. It quiets the conversation and the food noise and makes you not as
Right.
hungry. So you eat less. So how
Yes.
is it that if you're eating less and you swear that you stick with that diet and come off
Mhm.
Ozempic, you gain all your weight back?
Right.
How is that? And is it that people are lying and that their diet, in fact, did not stay the same or their exercise
Mhm.
did not? And that's the thing, like Ozempic quiets the food noise. So maybe you think you're eating the same diet when you come off of it, but you actually are
But you're
snacking
not.
in between or you're having slightly
The
bigger
grazing comes
sizes.
back.
Because
Yeah.
I don't
The
I don't quite understand how coming off of it and eating a low calorie, low fat diet causes you to gain all that weight back then, if you're sticking with that
I
same
think
barely
it's
eating diet.
I think it's the food choices, and like I said, I think it's the falling back into the habits of grazing, of still thinking you're not eating that much, but you are. A lot of people that I know or that I've seen who are on GLP-1s, are not tracking their food, and I think that's a part of it too, is then when you come off the GLP-1, you think you're eating the same amounts, but are you tracking? Do you know that for sure? Um, and I think, like, we see a lot on social media. I don't think we're always getting the full picture, like you said. Maybe we're not
We
quite
don't.
getting the truth, getting the full story because it doesn't make sense, right? Um, so I think there's still so many questions out there about GLP-1s. I think, like we've
Yes,
said, they can be a phenomenal tool when used correctly.
correct.
Zero judgment on anyone who uses them. It's not a thing that I personally will use, but that's just me.
Yeah,
And who knows? I say that now, maybe 5 years down the road, who knows? But at this point in my life, not a thing for me. But if it works for you, if it fits into your lifestyle, if you're using it in conjunction with other healthy choices and you're making it a part of a healthy lifestyle, I think it's fantastic. But I think we have to be very careful with labeling things as an easy fix, a magic pill, and getting lost in that mindset and that slippery
mhm,
slope of, well, this is all I have to do. If it were
exactly.
that easy, if it were that easy, everybody would be skinny. Everybody would be
Yeah,
skinny, right?
yep,
That'd be great.
and,
I
like,
wish it was
I
that
again,
easy.
I wanna know more about it because there is a world that maybe I'll go on it, but my only hesitation is I won't be on something for life. I just won't because genuinely, I know it's been around for like 30 plus years and blah, 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 but like they never study these things on women. They never study them on
Mhm.
women with certain medical, like, sure, they've done studies, but I guarantee you it's been on men, predominantly men, because that's how we've done all of our medical testing for years. There's a great book called Invisible Women that you should read that's all about how all the data and testing we have across advertising, medical, everything is predominantly done on white men. So there is a little bit of a concern for me about what actually is this going to be doing for long term for
And
weight
there's
loss.
always gonna be information that doesn't come out and that you don't get, right? Like, I have glasses now permanently. I had beyond perfect vision for years, beyond perfect vision. And then we did our fertility treatments. And then a couple years later, my eyes got really bad. And I remember going to the eye doctor and she did my test. She looked at me, we're looking at my scans and my photos, and she said, I don't want to scare you, but the only time I've seen eyes get this bad this fast is cancer. She's like, "So hold on, like, let's
Mhm.
go through this again." And we went through everything, and I was talking, and I said fertility treatments, and I kept going, and all of a sudden she went, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. What did you say?" And I said, fertility treatments. And she said, were you on like injectables? And I said, yep. And she said, which ones? And I told her, and she just looked at me and goes, bingo. And I said, what? She goes, massive eyesight deterioration as a long term
Mhm.
side effect. But that was never told to me. I never read it like, it
No.
was never made public. It was not one of the listed side effects. So even though there's some studies out there, do we really know the full picture? No. And when we say long term, like the definition of long term in these studies can be very different too. So yeah, I have a lot of questions. I'm very curious. Um, I think it'll be really interesting to talk about her journey, why she chose it, what she's seen. Does she have any regrets? What's worked well for her? What hasn't? What does she see in her future? I just think it'll be a really interesting conversation to hear her take on it because I know she's very open about it,
Mhm.
and to see what she's thinking in her journey. I think she's a couple months. I want to say maybe 3, 4 months in. I could be a
Yeah.
little bit off, but a couple months in. So I'm very curious to see. And she's increased her dose a few times. So I'm very curious to see what her thoughts are and what she sees long term with herself
Yeah,
and the
and
journey
that's what I
there.
wanna know, like, will they come off? Will they try? Is she one of those people that only eats once a day? There's a lot of comments about, "Oh, yeah, I came off of it, and I've been successful for 6 months off of it. I intermittent fast and eat 1 meal a day." That's also, like, just in pure transparency, not a life I wanna
That
really
sounds horrible
develop.
to me. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm not gonna be one of those people that only eats once a day and then comes
No.
off of a weight loss pill and is so fucking scared to gain weight that I just stop eating.
Yeah, that's not for me.
Absolutely terrible in my mind. So yeah, just curious. Also, it doesn't work for some people as well. There's some people who take
Yeah.
it and it doesn't work, but the overwhelming response is that the food noise comes back. So you have to be like, you have to put your guard up when you come off of this and not give in to the food noise and the eating. So I almost think for me, it would be worse to go on this because if I did come off of it, I think, oh my God, no. Like, I'll just deal with the level I'm at now that I can handle, but I feel like if I went on it and then came off of it, that food noise would feel like it was amplified, and I
Yeah.
no, thank you. I also am very curious to see, like, yo-yo, people going on it, losing weight, coming
Mhm.
off of it, eating whatever they want, knowing that they
Yep.
can go back on it and just lose again, and then, like, I don't know how that's gonna be, and we know that's probably not good for our internal systems to yo-yo, but I
Yep.
think people see this as, well, I can do whatever I want and then hop back on it and drop the weight real quick and kinda come and go. So that's something that
Exactly.
I'm interested in knowing about is that common? What is that like? And
Yeah.
then, um, do they think it's sustainable to be eating so little? Because that genuinely is what worries me is that it's overwhelming at this point. It's not even like a few individuals, it's almost every single one of them we talk to or we see barely eating. And, okay. I don't think that's sustainable. So, I mean, they look great and they look skinny as hell, and I kind of yeah, are there days that I'm really envious because I kinda wanna go on it and lose even more weight? Yeah.
Right? For
But
sure.
do I think it would benefit me? No. Do I think I need to figure out how to do this myself? Yes. But with that being said, as I turn the corner on looking at menopause down the road, sure, if my hormones started getting way out of whack and I started rapidly gaining weight due to menopause, or if I was on medication causing me to gain a substantial amount of weight, I would absolutely be calling my fucking doctor and saying, okay, let's do this because I can't lose the weight on my own at this point. It's a huge struggle. But the difference is I have a huge like, it's a tool for me. I have a huge background of what I would know I need to do, so I would take this and continue my bariatric strength training, walking,
Mhm.
eating, meal prepping, like, to go with it, but next week, two-part episode. We bring the
Yep.
guest on. We're going to ask her all these questions. So please, on social, let us know. What are your biggest questions about GLP-1s? What are your biggest misconceptions about GLP-1s? What concerns you about them? We want to make sure we answer and talk about everything you guys want. And maybe
Mhm.
she can, answer some of these things that we've talked about today and maybe put some of our concerns or fears to rest. But two-part episode next week. Guest on who is on a GLP-1 currently, and we're going to ask her all about it and see what she thinks, and we're gonna ask the tough questions.
Love it. Can't
Cool.
wait.
I can't wait either. Like always, Steph, thanks for joining me, and for everybody listening, thank you so much. Stay tuned for part 2
Mhm.
next week.
Love it. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.